This is the Everything Weight Loss podcast with Shari Ware, where we talk about everything, all things, anything to do with weight loss, health, and wellness. So today I'm talking to Sandra Hardie, who is a disco ball of modalities, or has a disco ball of modalities, I should say. She started her professional life in the corporate world and was disillusioned by its lack of heart. So she went down the holistic path. She's a pain relief therapist working on the physical, structural, and emotional body, a colour analyst, a certified wellness coach, an author, alchemist, performer, facilitator, speaker, and last but certainly not least, funeral celebrant. She jokingly says if she can't fix you, she will give you a good seeing off. Well, that is definitely very important. I know that's going to be one of my best parties. I'll do as much planning as I can, and then hopefully everybody has a good time. So first of all, I want to welcome you to the show, Sandra. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Shari. Lovely to be with you.
Yeah, I love your intro. That's awesome that we started it off on a foot like that. So my very first question is one that I absolutely love asking, and I don't always ask it first, but in this instance, it is relevant to ask you this first. So my very first question for you today is, what is your superpower? If you were to have one, what would it be?
Well, I do have a superpower, Shari. And my superpower is to be able to turn a pig's ear into a silk purse, as my mother used to say. So I have the unique, or not unique ability, I'm sure there's many people that have got it, but to be able to make something special out of something that's not so special. And that has come out of a lot of adversity and a lot of adapting, and yeah, so it's been a great skill to hone, and a very rewarding skill to hone.
As I read out in the introduction, you've got a lot of modalities, and I feel that, and we've discussed this prior, that comes out of that superpower that you have. So take it away. Tell us how all of that came about.
Well, in our little conversation beforehand, I told you that I went to 7 primary schools in 7 years. And so I had to become adaptable. And so when I left school, or the year I was leaving school, I had visions of being a speech and drama teacher or an art teacher. And at the time, I had several little jobs that I've been working since I was 10. I wanted a dragster bike when I was 10, and Mum and Dad couldn't afford it. And I wanted to be a cool kid, so I started peeling potatoes at the fish and chip shop when I was 10. Wow. And I saved up and got my dragster bike. And so all through my life, that's just been one of the things I've been able to do. Maybe it's bloody mindedness, I don't know, but I've always found a way of getting what I need. And I've always had that trust. So I was going to be a speech and drama teacher or an art teacher, and I was going to save the world. My father said that I was always picking up broken legs and broken wings and wanting to fix them. But they suggested that I might like to actually look for a job, just in case I didn't get into college, which is a grand boost not of my ability to get into college. But I applied for every job in the Sunday Times, and I got a retail cadetship with Myer, and consequently went through that and became a buyer for Myer. And then I had my first 2 children, and then I went back and was part of the team that set up Suzanne Gray's store in Western Australia. And what happened in both those instances, Myer became a corporation, so that's why I left Myer. I had a choice of going to Melbourne and being part of they actually had a centralised buying system, whereas when I was a buyer, I was buying for Western Australia, and I knew my demographic, and I had a connection to those stores, and so we'd buy, in accordance to that. But when it became a corporation, it lost that connectedness. So there was Suzanne Gray. When I worked for them, they were they're called Suzanne Gray because it was owned by Suzanne and Graham. I don't know if people knew that. It was a family business, and it was absolutely wonderful working for them. And you felt like you were part of something exciting. You're part of the team, and it was like it was your business. But then, of course, that got taken over by the Beeson Group of companies, which own Bradmills and all of that, and the whole system changed. Now, during this time, I was studying colour analysis to better help with, my clients' shopping needs. And I was really always been obviously interested in art, interested in colour. And what I found with that is that there was, when I was scoring up the different areas in that realm of colour analysis, I saw that there was patterns going on. It was actually the moxie of you. It was the way I used to do it. I used to do a personality profile. Then I'd do a intuitive colour testing. Then I'd look at your eyes with a magnolite, much like an iridologist does, and I would be looking for patterns which show me the seasons in your eyes. And how that relates to iridology, by the way, is every season is linked to a personality type, and how we respond to life's pressures sits in our bodies. So an iridologist reads that from a health perspective. I read it from an emotional perspective, I suppose. So there was a correlation there. Then I would do, a spot test on the face. Then I would do the actual colour draping. But before I'd done the colour draping, I saw the pattern. I knew what you were about. And my mother was studying colour analysis at the same, psychology at the same time. And I saw the comparisons between the two modalities, quite unlikely comparisons, similarities. And that led me to start doing self-development workshops for women and helping them understand their non-verbal communication and their unique moxie, and how they could be authentic in the world rather than trying to be like everybody else. And so that kind of led me on that holistic path. And then I gave up the corporations and never wished to go there again. And yeah, that sort of started me on that unexpected path. Yeah, so from there I studied massage therapies, kinegenics, which is kinesiology with energy healing. And it wasn't really a modality for me because it's a head modality, and I'm a touchy-feely kind of girl. I'm very kinesthetic. Yep. But what happened when I studied that is I started yawning when I would feel, so I was starting to respond to the energy blocks that were in my clients. And that kind of led me down an exploratory path. From there, I also learned a technique from a horse whisperer, would you believe, to release ligaments and tendons. And from that, I discovered unique pattern sets in the body. And then I started to discover that the people that had these patterns, their Achilles tendons weren't straight. So I noticed that what was happening is the body was actually trying to compensate for its foundation not being balanced. And then I started looking at the whole energy blocking, so really the whole mind, body, spirit side of things. So started working very holistically in that area, and discovering things and putting things together that I hadn't come across before and certainly hadn't been taught. So a lot of things were just me going down this curious path like Alice in Wonderland, really, and discovering things out of my own exploratory needs.
I absolutely love that, and I have to say that my own journey has kind of been the same, and I say it, and whether or not you can identify with this, but I say it like it's that old saying, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. Absolutely. And so my health journey has been like that. I haven't been looking for the next thing, but when I was ready for the next thing, it would kind of smack me in the face, which is actually really good, because otherwise I wouldn't have known that was where I was meant to be going next, I feel. So
absolutely, it's been all my shitty moments that have actually turned me into, because a lot of the time we go down these paths of should and must. Am I allowed to swear? Am I allowed to swear? Am I allowed to say a naughty word? Or maybe I'll just mouth it. A good friend once said to me, it was the best advice I've ever been given. Yeah. Probably about 8 years ago. She said this. She said, should and must are worse swear words than. Yeah. And, you know, I just have found that when you feel you should and must do something, you're actually trying to fit into somebody else's paradigm, and you're not actually following your true north. Yeah. When we want to do something, when we're working with passion and from the heart, we have endless, boundless energy for it, and things flow. But all the things, and when I was going down the path to try and people please, and I have been a people pleaser. Yeah. And discovered that the crowd is indeed not pleased. And you actually, you give away the your coin of life for no good reason, because we don't trust ourselves enough. And it's really those moments, those flat on the floor moments, that's where the silk purse thing happens. And I did say to you in, one of the questions you did ask, when I turned 50, I had to declare bankruptcy. I had a body salon in Main Beach, and the GFC hit, and all my clients, they lost their investments overnight. So basically the only clients I were getting were barter card clients, and they weren't giving me money. I couldn't, I could go to the best restaurants in Tedder Avenue, but I couldn't pay the bills. Yeah. So I had to declare bankruptcy, and that was, for me, shameful, because, as you know, I've been working since I was 10 years old, and I had a really strong work ethic, and I think that was the worst thing, was feeling ashamed. Yeah. And all the shame is a really destructive emotion, and but it actually made me have to give up the things that weren't working. And then my partner at the time, 6 months later, ran off with my boss. I actually got a job on the mountain, and he ended up running off with my boss. And I had to live with him and work for her for 5 months, which was pretty debilitating. So it's like 2 kicks in the guts in the same year. Yeah. But, out of that came something amazing. I used to go to a coffee shop and have, because I also had a 5-year-old at the time too. I had a late in life baby who's turning 18 this year. Oh, she's finally, so I've been a full-time parent for 39 years. So I'd take her to school, and I'd go and have a coffee at my local coffee shop before I went to work, and a poem would download. I'd have a sip of coffee, and I get this poem, and at first they were deep and meaningful, and I would write them down on a serviette. And it used to happen every day, so I got myself a little notebook, and this pattern continued until probably about 2 months in. I was sitting there and I was thinking about my son when he was 3, looking at my maternity bras on the line, and he asked me if they were boob traps. At this stage, my son was 28, but I was thinking about this when he was 3. And I started to laugh, and I wrote my first funny poem called A Girl Needs Support. Oh, wow. And it's about bras and all sorts, there was two double meaning, of course. And the next day I wrote, I love big undies. And then so it continued. And I'd recite these poems to my friends in a West Country accent, because my first husband was from Somerset. And when things are funny, we just recite things in a West Country accent. It's funnier. So I started doing that, and people thought I sounded like Pam Ayres. And from that, long story short, came a friend inviting me over to Adelaide to attend the Fringe Festival. He ended up organising this gig. He threw me in as the entertainment. One of the ladies there belonged to the Variety Club, who wanted to book me to perform, said she couldn't pay me because it was a variety club, but they could pay for my airfare and my accommodation. Would I do it? I said, sure. And then I came home and thought, holy crap, I better have a show. So I started writing the story in between the poems for the show. Yeah. And what I discovered, it was a process. My poems were my unconscious trying to tell me a story. And when I wrote the book, I got the story of my healing. And so at 56, I did my launch, I was shit scared, but my mum had become a school psychologist, went back to school at 42 because she was dyslexic and thought she was dumb, and she wanted to get a high school certificate, and at 50 became a school psychologist and was the best bloody school psychologist because she understood learning difficulties. And I thought, if she can do that, I can do it. I can do this. So she was my motivation to do that. And then I also, the message that was in the book, funny through humour, but I always find that shock and humour is a great way to communicate because people retain the information when it's funny or shocking.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I did it, and I thought, well, you know what? If that idiot had stayed with me, I wouldn't have done that. So these were great opportunities to express myself, express who I am, and to let the me come out. And we shut the me down so often in order to appease others, and it just never works.
Yeah, I guess that whole story is beautiful. It actually brought a whole heap of emotion to me, definitely. I had some tears in my eyes there, just quietly. I love that you were open to it, though. You just said that so many of us shut the me down, and you didn't do that, which is how...
I did shut my me down. That was the thing. That was why the path took it like it did. We need to be authentic. One of the big things that happened to me, because I'm actually in my third marriage. My first marriage broke down after 20 years. It was a hard gig, but I did love my husband, and I didn't leave him because I didn't love him. I loved him because we couldn't move forward, and I lost me completely.
Yeah.
And in the process, and neither of us were happy, so someone had to make a decision. Yeah. But these are the miracles that happen all around us. I went into a bookshop to buy a book for a friend when that first marriage broke down, and a book fell on my head. And the book that fell on my head was a book called Simple Abundance by Sarah Van Brethnash. And if you haven't read it, I highly recommend you gift yourself that book, because it takes you over a journey over 12 months. It's a page a day, and it takes you through a process. And I read that book every day for 14 years. And it helped me get back to me. It helped me to listen to my inner voice, which has become incredibly loud over the years. And it, berates me when I don't listen. And so, these are kind of magic moments. They seem like disasters at the time, but they're not. Because we do need a good old slap across the head occasionally.
That's one
to get back on track.
We do, definitely, and that's one of my core life beliefs, is that everything happens for a reason. Whether we realise it at the time, it absolutely does. So you have such an amazing story, and that was, I really wanted to, I felt that it was just... it really showcases what can happen when we're versatile, when we are open and able to go with life, what life throws at us. Amazing things can happen, which is what you've done. I particularly wanted to, the reason why I invited you on the podcast today was because we actually met at a holistic and health expo a little while ago, a few weekends ago now, and you had the most beautiful skincare range, and that's all natural ingredients and no chemicals and things like that. So I really wanted to talk to you about that in particular, because I know on my health journey, I didn't realise how important it is for everything. It's not just about what we put into our bodies, it's also what is around us in the environment, and also what we put on our bodies, which was why I absolutely loved, that was what drew me to you, first of all, and why we got talking. So can you tell us more about that journey?
Sure, Shari. How that all came about, that was kind of another one of those magic things too. The horse whisperer who ran off with the boss, this is about 12 years ago, probably longer now, doesn't matter. He had a horse that was traumatized, and someone bought it and needed to move from one place to another. And the horse was so traumatized it wouldn't get on the horse float. So for 2 weeks, all the specialists tried to get this horse on the horse float. And he said, "Can you make something?" And I said, "Sure." I didn't know how I knew to make something, but I did. So I made this formula called Calm, and which was just made from essential oils, purified water, colloidal silver, vanilla extract that I make myself. But it's also had been frequency changed, and I'll talk about that a little bit later, expand on that one. And then I ended up spraying the horse whisperer, spraying the float, and the horse sniffed him and just walked in calmly. And after 2 weeks of big battles, but the horse was significantly shifted. So, but I smelt that formula and I thought, you know what? I'm going to use that as my fragrance because I didn't want, perfume is so toxic. Women spend a fortune on it and it's literally poison. Plus, I had become really sensitive to these home sprays, and I go to friends' homes and they had that thing in the toilet, and they had the shushy thing in the in the house, and it's supposed to smell like coconuts and limes or whatever. All I could smell was poison. And so I really wanted to shift away from that for my own well-being. I was becoming more and more sensitive. So I started using Calm as my fragrance. When I had the body salon, I also made a pain relief oil, which I called Freedom. And that was all natural. And I would rub it on to clients who had achy joints and achy muscles. And it would transdermally go down and would be an anti-inflammatory. And it was really effective. And I started getting lots of feedback from that. But also I discovered out of my own experimentation, my cat actually giving me love bites and scratches and them being inflamed, I'd rub this on and it would take all the inflammation out. So it's been used for so many things. So there was that. Then I became aware of all the shit, excuse the French, that is in skincare products.
Yeah.
And I started doing some research and discovered that beauty therapists have 10 times more toxins in their bodies than normal women, and normal women have 10 times more toxins in their bodies than men. And then also I started looking at all the layers of toxins that we put on ourselves. So you open up your cupboards and you've got your dishwashing liquid and your cleansers and your this, every single one of them toxic. Then you've got your shampoos and your conditioners and your moisturizers and your underarm deodorants and your toothpaste and all that stuff. We're layering and layering and layering these toxins in our body. And it concerned me. So I thought, you know what? And the other thing was too, I'm really lazy. I would buy skincare products, you buy the pack. And when the moisturizer ran out, I found I had a full toner and half a cleanser left and then repeat.
Yep.
And I found we don't use them. We think we were told we have to use them, and it's just, honestly, it's bullshit. It's just a, I used to sell skincare. I know what you've got to say. And honestly, you're trained to believe it too. But I wanted something that would do everything and that was good for me, that I loved. Yep. So I set about making Nourish, which was my all-purpose girlfriend that I could take with me. It could be a cleanser if I wanted it to. It could be a moisturizer. It could be a hand and body lotion. And it could be a healing cream all in one. And for 9 years, that's all I used. And then with my Calm and my cream, because it has essential oils in it, people would stop me in the street, or they'd stop me in restaurants, or they'd stop me in a lift and say, "What's that beautiful smell?" And I would always say, "Oh, it's my Calm spray and my cream." And then they'd say, "Can we buy it?" And then so I ended up having a little circle of my friends that would, I would ladle the cream out into their jars, and they'd buy the Calm, and then their friends would want it. So up until 18 months ago, I was literally ladling, and I still ladle to my friends because we like to, not
get
have
together.
Yeah, we like to recycle things.
Yep.
So that was it. But then I was turning 60, and I could access my superannuation fund, and I thought, you know what? Still haven't got a credit card. which was a good thing. I've got nothing but this $20,000 in superannuation. I could buy myself a car, or I could buy myself, a cheap car, or I could have a holiday, and that would be it. It'd be gone. And here I am at 60 with nothing behind me. So I thought, I'm going to invest in myself. And prior to that thought, I'd actually had a dream. And the dream actually showed me a formula for a night cream that contained frankincense, myrrh, and gold. And it was in September. And I thought, you know what? I better get that out for Christmas. And I could access my super in the end of November. I didn't get it quite out for Christmas, but I knew it was important to have a beautiful gold jar. Because people wouldn't value it if it wasn't presented beautifully. It's just human nature and my retail background. And I'm artful. I like things to look nice and feel beautiful. So I invested in myself, and I took the chance, and I created the Sacred Blends range. And because I was looking for a name for the cream, and it was going to be called Gifts of the Magi and all sorts of weird stuff. And then I thought, it's sacred. I just call it sacred. And then I got, you need to make this into something for everybody. So Sacred Blends became the name. And why it is sacred is because it is done in an alchemistic way. So I use the numbers 3, 7, and 40 in the formulas. I make it, I know it sounds woo-woo, I make it in days divisible by 3. And the first batch of Sacred was made on the last full moon of the last decade.
Oh, wow.
And so it was magical. And then when the products are made, they're made in small batches. They're made with intent. Then they're placed on a Tesla plate, which actually takes them to the frequency of 528, which is the frequency of the heart. And so they have a subtle resonance. So not only are the ingredients beautiful, the way they're made is with love, but they have a subtle resonance which works on your own frequency field, helping you to calm and balance. So to me, that was my arts and my drama, and everything that I am was there in those products. So that was just like my other magic tool, I suppose, in my toolkit. But it's also something, it is my art. I love it. When I'm making a batch, I put on my music and I'm in the zone, and I absolutely love it. So that's why it can never be a huge thing. It'll always be a bespoke range, because it will not be the same. I literally have to make every bottle of Calm by hand because of its formulation. So I can't make a big batch and pour it into containers. So it can never be made that way. So and then my husband Tony, he's a psychotherapist who was corporate too. He walked away from that world. He loves candles, and when he's with his clients, he used to spend a lot of money on these candles, but they were toxic. I don't know if you know, anything that's fragranced, not with essential oils, turns to formaldehyde when it hits the atmosphere. So those lovely fragrance things that you think they're making your house smell nice are poisoning your environment and poisoning you. So he decided to make his own candles using essential oils and sustainable soy or palm oil. And so they have no toxins. So they actually do their beautiful thing as well. And he then made shampoo and body bars, because once again, you're using body washes and shampoos and conditioners and hair treatments and everything, and it's all toxic, and all that goes into your DNA basically. So the shampoo and body bars are just pure oils, beautiful oils, essential oils, and lye. That's it. So so that was the reason.
What people don't realise is that they think, you know, it's one product. If we were just using one product, it potentially wouldn't be such an issue. But because we're layering so many products that we don't even realise, I mean, some are not even products that we're putting on ourselves. They just might be in the air that we're breathing in. You know, that's where the real issue lies, and we are slowly poisoning ourselves. So
yeah. So it was just that little thing that we could do. Everything I make is made for us. And, you know, I always joke and say, not tested on animals, tested on us and our friends. But once again, it came out of a need. It wasn't something, you know, it wasn't a planned business idea. It was a need that we needed to fill, and we thought, who can do it best? But you know, if it is to me, it's up to me, kind of thing, you know.
Yeah, that's awesome. I absolutely love that. That's a story that I actually hadn't heard all of that before, and it was just beautiful. Thank you. And I love that all of your products. I love that you you know, doing it with the numbers and changing the frequency, and I actually, it popped into my head as you were describing all of that. I feel like it's infused with love, all of your products.
That is the secret ingredient. Honestly, that is the secret ingredient, is love. You know, it's made with love.
Yeah.
It's made passionately, but, you know, that is an energy of itself. But the other thing that it was really important to me too was to support local businesses in its making. So I source as many things as I can locally. Also, COVID taught us that, you know, that's something we need to do too. So the labeling is done in Orang with, you know, super labels, and so and you know, when I do market, so when I get, you know, I do get some cash with that. That cash goes into my community too. So you know, that's the kind of thing you know, getting back to that kind of village culture again, where we support the community. So the community supports me, and I support the community. So that's you know, and that's really important for health and wellness as well, because one of the things that's happening is we're being disenfranchised from one another, and when you feel alone, and also you feel you've got to do everything on your own, which we don't. It takes a village to do everything.
That's right. And you are creating connections and fostering those connections through everything that you're doing, which is just
absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so I have some questions that I usually ask people, and I feel like this is the appropriate time to ask them, and it's very on topic. So my first question would be, what do you feel are, and in the questions that I put to people, I call them mistakes, but they're not actually really mistakes. They're really, what are the things that don't serve us when it comes to our health and wellness in your experience from what you've come across?
The most important thing I can say to everybody is not being authentic is the worst thing you can do. As I said, the crowd is never pleased. You have an innate drive, and what happens is we tend to, our mind says, oh no, you can't do that, you must do this. That's a bit of the should and must coming back again. And so we don't listen to our gut feelings or our inner yearnings. We put them aside because we don't think they're important. And they are very important. That is your guiding. That is your God self directing you on the purpose that you came here for. So by you not listening to that, it'll drain you. It'll take everything from you. And the people you are trying to please and the things you're trying will be taken from you anyway. And that's been a repeated lesson for me. I've lost everything 3 times. And every time I've lost everything, I've gained so much more because I've let go of the need to be, you know, loved, or the need to be, you know, famous, or the need to have the stuff like everybody else, or the need to be liked. And, you know, it's all false, because when you're yourself and you're your radiant true self, you attract the right frequency to you, and everything then becomes harmonious. And if it doesn't feel harmonious, it's your head telling you, it's a spin doctor of your head giving you a big lie. So that would be the biggest thing I would say.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, so if somebody wants to, what would be the biggest thing that somebody can do to help themselves on that journey? I guess if you want to keep going along the lines of the most authentic them, what's something that can help them do that?
In my experience, I would love to, give you some pearls of wisdom, but in my experience, we usually prostrate on the floor thinking our world has ended before we listen. Because the only way is up. We're really stupid. We just don't. That tends to, well, that's been my pattern. Sorry for making a broad generalization, but that has been my experience. And all along I knew, and all along, a part of me went, I told you so, but you wouldn't listen. So we had to slap you down and, take you. But I think the core to happiness is gratitude. When you practice gratitude, you're not so needy of so many things, because you actually focus on what is going right with things. And when you are focusing on what is going right, the right builds, the energy of right builds, and you can't hold a negative and positive thought in you at the same time. So, step one, gratitude. Yeah, that is like kind of the basis of happiness.
Yeah, okay. So what I will do before we get to the last question, and you could have already answered that, but it's my favourite question, so I'm going to ask it anyway. But before we get to that, I just want to remind everybody that I always put links to connect with people in the show notes. So I'll be putting all of Sandra's links in the show notes for you to be able to connect with her after you've listened to this episode and been wowed and amazed and want to check her out further, because I know I definitely wanted to when I first met her. And so now my last question is, if there's one big thing that you want people to know after listening or watching this episode, what would that one thing be?
That you're perfect. That you're perfect. That in all the permutations of humankind, so all the people that have ever been born and all the people that have ever yet to be born, there's no one like you. I'm fascinated by that whole thing. You are a unique creation, or as I like to say, you are a shard of God. You are a unique perspective of God. You've come into this world, you've come into this life, this particular lifetime, in this particular vessel, to show a unique part of God that nobody else can do, whatever you perceive that to be. I'm not being religious here. But so, and in you, you have a sense of that. All my life, I have known that I'm here for something really special. And I don't know what that thing is. I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up, and I'm 62 this year. But I have a knowing, a deep knowing. And, I know when I'm on course, when I focus in the heart. And there's a very interesting thing going on now energetically. We are moving, our frequency is moving. And a lot of us are finding it really difficult, because we're in a bit of a flux at the moment. But my advice to you is, if you're feeling shitty or not good at any particular point of time, it's because you're in the head. You're in a pattern, you're in a story about that has been part of a pattern of your life. And it's not even real, it's just a story. And if you were to say to yourself, this is just a story, and if you project into the future, well, who knows what the future is? You might not even be here for all those scenarios that you're thinking about that are bothering you and worrying you. Be in the heart, because in the heart you're in gratitude, and that's where you discover that you are all you are, and you have all you need. And that is the flux that we're in at the moment. So if you feel shitty, you're in a story. You're either pondering on the past or projecting into the future, and you're not aware of all the magnificence that's going on around you right in this present moment, because you're so focused on other things. But you know what? There's so much beauty and abundance and around you at this point in time if you look. I went to Uluru. I was called to Uluru March last year, and I went, as it turned out, for the equinox, not the equinox, the solstice, on the summer solstice. So on the 21st of December, I was there. Didn't think I was going to make it, but yes, I did know I was going to make it because I was called there. And that taught me so much about everything that I am and what I'm here for and what we're here for. You look at a place like that and it seems like a desert. It seems dry, but when you really look, it has absolutely everything it needs in perfect harmony, seasonally perfect. And Uluru looked at me like a mother looks in a child's eyes and doesn't have to say a word. And I guess what I'm trying to convey is that's you. You are perfection. You just need to feel it. Don't be so busy looking and projecting. Feel who you are, and then you'll hear the voice that'll direct you in your purpose to be here.
That's beautiful. All right, and I'm going to end it there. I'm not going to add any more to that because that was just beautiful. Thank you so much for joining me today, Sandra.
Absolute pleasure. Thanks for asking me, Shari.
And I'll see you all on the next episode. See ya.
Bye.
Thank you so much for joining me on this episode. Remember to check out the show notes, and if you have any comments, feedback or suggestions, I'd love to hear them. If you've received value from this podcast, make sure to subscribe, and I'd love you to rate and review the show. Have a fabulous day.